All right, so what do we have here? It is a fat loss phase of one of my clients, and this is over 20 weeks, so it's a pretty significant length of time to kind of gauge progress. And it's just to show you guys how weight loss isn't typically kind of like linear. It doesn't just like go straight down all the time. This is a good example of when you kind of stay consistent, work hard, and follow the principles of fat loss, that you can make relatively close to linear progress. So as you can see here, started off at 73.4 and got down to 69.5 by the 19th week, or 68.9. So like, it's not drastic. Like it's pretty sustainable rate of weight loss. Like this is nothing kind of groundbreaking. These numbers are, very achievable, very realistic, and that was kind of the goal from the outset. So we could have been more drastic. Like let's say there's like a little plateau here at 70.7, or starting off. There's a little plateau here as well, and we could have made more drastic changes, but we don't necessarily want to do anything too severe because it kind of sets up a rebound effect, or it hurts the overall long-term sustainability. Essentially, we want to kind of make it as effortless as possible, put in as little work as possible. So it could have been faster, but we went for sustainability. So overall, it's about, let's say 3.5 kilos of weight loss. The client definitely felt fitter, stronger, was happier with the look they had by the end. And a lot of this came down to the actual clients themselves, kind of level of happiness. So you might be saying you could have lost more weight, or it's not really that significant amount of weight loss. And that's largely dependent on the client. So if they wanted to lose more, or if they wanted to go slower, that would be something I would kind of cater to with them. Because I want to work with the client. I don't want to push them in a direction they don't want to go, basically. So they were happy with this rate, and it's just something to keep in mind that we could have done this exact same amount of weight loss in a shorter space of time, but then the longer you give habits the chance to kind of become ingrained, the longer, or the more likely they are to kind of stick around long term. So that's the nice thing about this. And we kind of only made changes as needed. So as I said before already, we could have gone with a more severe deficit, or we could have gone with more activity and stuff like that, but it was all about sustainability. So the energy levels throughout were pretty good. Stress and performance in the gym, all that kind of stuff was good. No side effects, which is nice. You think, or a lot of people would think that, okay, I'm in a fat loss phase, and that means I'm going to get weaker, or I'm going to feel tired, or I'm going to feel hungry. But there were nights out in amongst these 20 weeks. There were meals out. Flexibility was encouraged the whole time. So you might think, oh, it has to be restrictive and you have to get weaker, all at the overall goal of getting lean. But it's not the case. It doesn't have to be like that. So that's where the nice thing about taking an undefined period of time, so 20 weeks, 19 weeks, that's the kind of the upside of that. You can incorporate more flexibility. If it was, let's say, a 4-week fat loss phase, and it's right, we have to get down 3.5 kilos, you have no margin for error. If you have a week where your weight goes up, now you have to do more in less time. So yeah, there's a lot of things. You have to take it on an individual basis, and there's a lot of things to consider. But yeah, the weight drops down pretty nicely overall, and then it gets down to 68.6 at its lowest, and it kind of peaks up a little bit here at the end. But then the nice thing about it is, so having gone through times where the weight kind of went up a little bit, you see here, it went up this week, it went up this week as well. Each time that happens, the client and myself as well, we become more comfortable and more familiar with that, and we can just say, we can pinpoint why it happened, basically. So we can say, you were a bit too flexible with your nutrition, or your activity dropped, or you had certain life stresses that took away from your ability to manage your health. And each time, it might sound a bit odd, but each time the client has a setback, almost the better it is, the more it kind of challenges the client and me as well to overcome it, test your skills. Because if you decide, right, I'm in a fat loss phase, that's it, and it just goes straight down, and you make, like, let's just say 3 changes to your nutrition and training and your overall lifestyle. You make 3 changes, you lose 3 kilos in 3 weeks. What did you learn? You learned, very little relative to setbacks and going through the full process, having to kind of like overcome certain challenges and stuff like that. So even though client's weight went back up in the last week, based on everything that we've learned through the process, it wouldn't be an issue. That would be no problem at all to kind of get back on a fat loss phase. And then as well, another thing to consider is the client might decide, I actually prefer being at that weight, the end weight here, 69.5, or I like, this look, or I like my energy levels here, or, it's the amount of calories I'm on, or the setup I have is it's very suitable to my lifestyle, because there's a trade-off to make. So as you are getting leaner, you kind of have to put more focus onto your nutrition and training. The margin for error is kind of it's much smaller. So if you can imagine someone who's like 5% body fat versus 15, the 15% is much easier to maintain. But then maybe someone mightn't like being 15% body fat. Someone who's 5% body fat, it could be very difficult to maintain, but they might like that look. So again, it's kind of like a very individual by individual basis, and you kind of have to kind of reconsider and review as each week goes by to see, how do I feel? Do I like this? Is it sustainable? Can I continue this? Am I being flexible enough? And just generally trying to learn as much as you can in the process, because if you look at it more as an experiment and a process that you can learn from, as opposed to this kind of like rigid, almost torture, and say like, oh, I don't get to do all these nice things. You make the process a lot harder than it needs to be. Like, it's a great opportunity to learn about your body, about nutrition, about exercise, just numerous different things, and to see what works for you, and carry that forward then kind of for the rest of your life, hopefully, so that you'll be able to manage your weight better, because it is pretty tricky to do. So that's what I like to try and remind clients, that like all of this work, it is for something for the long term, in that as you get older, it might get harder to manage your weight. So hopefully the skills you learn now, they'll carry you through for the rest of your life. That's what we're always looking to do. The long term sustainability is always a very important factor. So I hope that helps, and hopefully you can take away a few points from this.